Are your gloves golden? Because the Guardians are. We're into the gold gloves that were handed out. A lot of history made today for the Cleveland Guardians. We're also going to talk about the greatness of Jose Ramirez and how he slots in Cleveland Guardians history now and how we project after the end of this season on today's Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Locked On Guardians. I want to first take a moment and say thank you for making Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day, wherever it is that you get podcasts. For those who don't know me, I am Jeff Ellis. I'm one of the co-hosts here of Locked On Guardians, as I have been since the beginning of this show. Before that, I was a lead draft and prospect analyst at Scout in 24/7, and then many a Cleveland sports blog. Apparently can't say that word today. Justin, how do they know you?
Yes, I am Justin Ladd. I came aboard Locked On Guardians with Jeff about a month ago. I'm currently the managing editor of Guardians Baseball Insider. I still freelance at the News Herald and the Morning Journal in the Cleveland suburb areas, east and west side, and have been at ESPN Sweet Spot for Cleveland in the past, and Burning River Baseball and Fansided and other various Cleveland baseball blogs.
I want to take this moment here and say we're at 821 subscribers on YouTube. It is very, very big for us if you can help us get to that 1,000. So if you have not, if you got multiple accounts, please go and subscribe. We would very much appreciate that. I mean, that's what, 179 to go? 179, so that's nothing. I mean, I don't know.
Before the end of the year.
You know, it should be easy. Our combined followers, well, I don't want to come across too braggy. It's not letting me see yours. We have to be, between the two of us, over 5,000 followers on Twitter. So that should make it relatively easy to get there. But let's start with these gloves that are gold, not golden. I know hopefully someone didn't turn it off when I said our gloves are golden. I know that is a faux pas for some when you call them the golden gloves, because that's the boxing thing. These are gold gloves. I think I used to love like getting those baseball previews. I mean, maybe it looks like I'm not doing that here, but you get the magazines like the Athlon and everything else. And I think it was like a Sports Illustrated one. And I just remember it was like Rick Riley ranting about that in one of them. And it stuck with me, like that exact rant. So I would still read those to this day. That was like, I don't know. I read those cover to cover. I really appreciate. Did anyone else have a long abiding love of those sports guides? I'm going to throw that out there as the random question of the day on the show. Comment in the comments below. But should I just get into the history of it? I pulled up, Bart Swain is media relations, great dude. And his email has like all the high points. So I'm just going to credit Bart because again, good dude, fantastic information. It is the first time an American League Cub has garnered 4 gold gloves since 2003, and just the second time in the last 47 years. This is the 8th team to net 4 gold glove awards in the same season. And I feel like I just contradicted myself. But Cleveland's previous club record was 3, which came in 2000 with Omar Travis and Roberto Alomar. The other interesting thing is it was the first time for all of these players. It's the first time in club history 4 Guardians earned awards each for the first time. Bieber, it's the first pitcher to ever win it for Cleveland. Giménez, he is just the 3rd second baseman.
Good
Justin, do you know the other 2?
I do. It's Cesar Hernandez in 2020 and then Robbie Alomar in 2000.
I feel like Cesar Hernandez is going to be that one in like 15 years everyone forgets. Ronnie Belliard got robbed.
Trivia question.
Yeah. Ronnie Belliard should have won one in there, I feel like. I'm gonna continue to stand for Ronnie Belliard on this podcast.
Yes, we do.
For now until the end of time. Stephen Kwan, it's just ridiculous to look at those numbers. As good as he was as a hitter, I'm gonna say it now. He might be at the top of my list for extension. Like, it is year 1 of his contract. He was a college player. I don't know his exact age, but he's got to be mid-20s already, right? Like, you have a good chance to get that done. Yeah, he's 25. he's not going to hit free agency until his early 30s. So, like, go get that done. Go get like a 10-year contract. Like, that is the guy that feels like I would be fine giving an 8-year contract to Stephen Kwan. Can I just state that here and now? Like, he's
locked in his arguments now.
Yeah, and with him being in the first year of it, this is your best. Like, I would give him the Michael Harris contract. I've stated that before, and I'll state it again. I would give him the Michael Harris contract in a heartbeat. He's so good. It's just power is the only thing he's missing from his game. He's a 4-tool player, and he's like, the best defensive left fielder in baseball this past year, on top of being one of the best on-base forces in baseball. And let's see, he is the last rookie to win a Gold Glove was Luis Robert in 2020, and he and Straw are the first outfielders to net the award since Grady Sizemore, and he's just the second left fielder. I don't know if you saw the email. Do you know who the other left fielder to win the award was back in 1959? A player that started in Cleveland system, was traded to the Chicago White Sox, and then acquired back. It's one of those great, and then traded back to the White Sox, and then this is where I get into the weeds, because I'm like, and then in that deal where they traded him back to the White Sox, they got Norm Cash, who they proceeded to give away to the Tigers for Derek Dietrich's grandfather. Just kind of fun loops and stuff. It was Minnie Minoso, so is the player, the only other left fielder in franchise history. The unraveling of that trade is just kind of one of my favorite random facts. So, like, they lost the first deal. They were okay on the second one, and they could have really won the third one, but then instead they helped the Tigers build a championship core. And then I got too many tabs open. Myles Straw, just dominant. Not only did he lead all center fielders with 24 good fielding plays, I'm not sure what that means, but 7 outfield arms run saved, and he led all major league outfielders with 385 total chances, compiling a 995 fielding percentage. And he led all center fielders, most defensive runs saved among center fielders, and led the AL, all outfielders, with 12 assists. You don't see a lot of center fielders typically who lead the league in assists. Am I wrong in that? I can't recall it being a center fielder leading the league. It's typically like left field or right. Well, I feel like more like left field. Yeah, left field, right.
Well, right field's where you put your best arm. So yeah,
and then left field sometimes has like the easier play, like Michael Brantley. Remember all the times he like was the assist king just because the advantage of the position. So center field. It speaks to, again, it's sacrilegious for me to say this, but like he's early Omar Vizquel on the field, nothing outside of it, just on the field. The defensive level that he brings in the lack of offense makes him something like what Omar did those early years.
Is there another Cleveland rookie who won the Gold Glove award?
I mean, going through it, they didn't mention anyone, right?
I don't see it. I'm just curious if you knew off the top of your head.
So I think it's a no. I think Kwan is the first to do that, because I feel like if there had been, they would have said since so and so. But I also feel like, I don't know, this is maybe being a 41-year-old. Like, for the longest time in my life, I grew up just wanting to see them win any awards. Like, I'd be like, the last MVP was still Al Rosen. For most of my life, Gaylord Perry was the only Cy Young until CC Sabathia. We never got the big awards here. You never got to have that. I can remember sitting there in my high school economics class. We had a computer in the back of the room that no one used because this is the 90s. And like, we got online to like refresh to see if Bell was going to win the MVP, and then just being angry about Bo Vaughn. Just a different era because I'm an old man, but it's things like that. So even the Gold Glove would have been something to cherish and get excited for. And I don't recall a lot of winners outside of like when you had Roberto, when you had Omar, and Lofton in his day. Grissom might have won the year he was here, but I can't remember too many other guys. And Fryman, of course, as well. But yeah, it's
Grissom did win. Grissom did not win the year he was here. Matt Williams did not know. It was Matt Williams did the one year he was here.
Matt Williams did, yeah. Who turned into Travis Fryman. So they had some pretty good back-to-back third baseman.
Yeah.
Defensively. It's it's interesting to look at, and it's some hardware, right? It's always nice to see. And I feel like, I know we need to go to our first break here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it always feels like the Gold Glove carries a little more cachet than the Silver Slugger. Even though we like offense more, doesn't there feel like people like the Gold Glove gets more attention?
Yeah, I guess because it's Louisville Slugger is the sponsor.
Yeah, this is Rawlings.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess Rawlings just goes back further. Like Silver Slugger, the first Silver Slugger for Cleveland. I don't know when that award was introduced, but the first one was Andre Thornton in '84. So this one has more history to it. I guess that's probably why. Something to do with it.
Well, I think we covered it again. Thank you to the Cleveland Guardians and Bart, who did a fantastic write-up. I took everything from that because he had it all covered there. No reason to go any deeper than that.
I just saw how you judge pitching, like pitcher defensive award.
He finished second in the league in putouts and fourth with 3 defensive run saves. I guess it's all the information they provided. But
I feel like pickoff should be included in that. I'm not sure. People might be interested to know that in the email too. He notes this, that the Gold Glove Awards are tabulated from votes by respectively coaches and managers. So that makes up 75% of the voting. And then the rest of it is fielding statistical data from the Sabre community. So
wasn't it all statistical stuff in 2020 when Cesar won? Wasn't that the year that was all I think they did because they couldn't ask anybody outside of who you played to vote. Yeah. So that's an interesting balance. I wonder how it would look if they balanced things 50-50. For those who are not, statistical friendly or don't like that kind of stuff, just so you know, Sabre is SABR. It's the Society of American Baseball Research. It's not a sabermetric thing. It's Society of American Baseball Research. They do more than just stats, just so everybody knows. It's not before you sit there and pound your phone or you throw your headphones about stats. No, we like I said, we like to have fun with it. We know that we are stats people and that there are other people who are definitely not. But I think this actually makes a perfect point to take our first break here. We're going to come back and talk about the greatness of Jose Ramirez. It was an off year for a lot of reasons, and he still performed well. And we're going to talk about where he stands historically in Cleveland Guardians history. And we'll also later on the show get into the kind of lack of third base prospects in system. There are a few names to know, but it's definitely a position that is a position of weakness on today's Locked On Guardians. But first, quick message about Roan. Listen, if you want to look nice, feel nice, smell nice, you want to go with Roan. Remember when I'm sorry, total brain issue there. Here's the thing with Roan. It is a comfortable shirt. We know what dress shirts are like. We know that I hate them personally. I have never liked dressing up. I always try to do the bare minimum. But when you got a shirt like the ones Roan make, you won't mind dressing up. And what's nice is it's not a shirt that is just meant to look good, which it does. It's also meant to work with you. It's a shirt that you can begin your day in the office and end your day on the links. It is a wrinkle-free shirt that you can just sit there and pull on and the wrinkles disappear. And hey, if you're going to have a busy day in the office, if you are going to have a busy day on the course, it's got anti-odor technology, which we all need, right? If you're spending a lot of time indoors, you will be thankful for the Gold Fusion anti-odor technology, keeping you smelling fresh and clean all day long. And on top of that, normally you get a fancy shirt. What's the one thing it says? It says you got to take it to the dry cleaner. Not with Roan. Throw that thing in the washer and it will be ready to go the next day. If this appeals to you, and why wouldn't it? It's a fantastic shirt that looks good, feels good, and keeps you smelling good. Then you want to go get the commuter shirt to get you through your workday and straight into whatever comes next. Head to roan.com/locked-on and use the promo code locked-on to save 20% off your entire order. Not just for one shirt, all of your shirts. That's 20% off your entire order when you head to RHONE.com/locked-on and use the code locked-on. It's time to find your corner office comfort with roan.com. So this Jose Ramirez person, from what I understand, is pretty solid, right?
He's all right. Yeah, I think they call him the GOAT. That sounds right. The right nickname.
Is it because he'll eat anything?
He'll eat pitchers and stolen
Fastballs.
bases. Yeah, he eats fastballs and has been known to feast on catchers or pitchers pick off. I don't know, bases.
Yeah, it's
Mario coins.
Yeah, he is an unreal talent, and it is again kind of the thing where I think you look at he was up for Gold Glove, didn't win. He's the one guy who was nominated, didn't win, and understandably, it's understandable why he didn't win. Not to talk negatively about him, but it was a very hard competition at that third base spot. I mean, Matt Chapman didn't even win, and he's been kind of like the best defensive third baseman in baseball for half a decade. So when you talk about what he presents, it is the perfect example of why like prospect lists are fun and they are fantastic. But whenever remember like everyone got so mad about this time a year ago, like, hey, you realize the Guardians traded Clevenger and they traded Lindor and Carrasco and didn't get one top 100 prospect? And it's like,
what a good argument that was.
Yes, I mean that came up, but the point is like Jose was never a top 100. He wasn't even the most famous Jose Ramirez when he was in the minors. That was a Yankees pitcher. He was the other Jose Ramirez for large points of his career. He skipped high A to go to double A. Now, why did he skip high A? Was because the organization really believed in him? No, it's because they did believe in him. I don't want to make it sound the other way.
It's a great story.
He skipped high A because Lindor was going to high A. And they still wanted him to play shortstop, but they wanted, they believed in him as a shortstop. They didn't want him to repeat a level, but they also didn't want to mess with Lindor's development. At least that was the story I heard. So he got pushed up.
Yeah, there's more.
I mean, if you want to give more, I mean, all I have was that, they wanted to challenge him, that they thought that he could benefit from the challenge. He wasn't the priority.
Yeah, I don't know if that was necessarily true. I don't think they knew what his upside was at that point, but I do remember hearing a tale of, and I don't know if this is 100% true, but I do remember there being a tale of a conversation between the team and Jose and his agent, and said, I pushing him to go to double A, like saying, I can play in double A now. I can play with these guys. I can, I don't need to be playing in high A. And essentially him and his agent argued for him to skip high A, and that played into it as well, I think. I don't know. Again, that's my memory of conversations that took place. This was back in 2013. And then 2013, as we remember, he was called up down the stretch.
Yeah, it was mostly a runner, right?
Yeah, he was playing some games over Lonnie Chisenhall. He started, he played in 15 games, and he accumulated 14 plate appearances, so he wasn't playing a ton. But there were a couple games where he started third base over Lonnie Chisenhall, and at that point, he was really not a third baseman in the minors. So he played third base, 5-10 times in the minors, and then he came up into Cleveland and played third base his first year, played a little bit of shortstop, but he was not really much of a third baseman. I shouldn't say much, but he was not exposed to third base a lot coming up in the minors. And remember, he didn't really start playing third base in the majors until halfway through 2016 when they finally decided to say adios to Juan Uribe.
To his buddy. I mean, Juan. Was anyone else remember? It's like the Juan Uribe Jose Ramirez story was identical to the Orlando Cabrera Asdrubal Cabrera story. Like, it's the exact same story of this older vet who came in and like talked to them about what to do with their swing, and then all of a sudden they found power. Like, it was this exact same story in both situations. So I don't know. That's one of those things. Again, comment if you remember the similarities between those narratives when they popped up. So let's just put it out on Front Street when we're talking about the review of this year. First month and a half of the year, he would be a 1C candidate for MVP if he kept that up. But he broke his thumb and tore some ligaments and played the whole rest of the year and was an average player. At the end of the day, he was pretty much, from the time that injury happened, he was a league average guy. He seemed to change who he was as a hitter. He was chasing a lot more, doing a lot of different things. We're not going to debate what choice was the right choice. But it's something you have to mention, just because it's definitely a tale of pre and post injury. He was, like I said, he was on his way to a career year before that injury.
So what you're saying is that Jose Ramirez with 9 good fingers is good with almost anybody else in baseball with 10 as the.
And it's not just
baseball with 10 fingers.
nine good fingers. It's like 9 good fingers and a crap ton of pain. Because it's like, it's not just that finger isn't there. It's that everything you do. I think I've shown it before. Like I broke my thumb and, okay, so it doesn't bend. And everything you do with this hand when you break it, I was playing third base, by the way, got ran over. That's how mine got busted. Someone decided to take out the third baseman, like it was a catcher. I still don't know what the kid was thinking to this day. But since I was holding the ball in the hand, whatever, I ended up breaking my thumb. It doesn't bend, and everything I did hurt. So I can say from personal, and I didn't do ligament damage. I can't imagine. He had to be getting cortisone shots. He had to be doing, like, if nothing else, it just speaks to his toughness. I can't. It's I was just a teenager, so maybe I wasn't as good at dealing with pain, but you move your hand wrong and it hurts. I don't know how he did it. I just have to be honest. I don't know how he did what he did this year.
Not the first time he's done. Remember in 2019,
the broken hamate bone?
Yeah, he had the hamate issue.
Yeah.
He was gone from late August into mid-September, and he came back, and the minor league season was over, and he couldn't go rehab because there was nowhere to go for him to rehab. And his first at bat back off the disabled list was a grand slam, I think, off the White Sox in Chicago, and it's like, wow.
And that hamate is known to take your power away. That was the crazy thing. And he had multiple home runs.
Injury hurts.
Yeah.
That is a very painful injury.
And there's, again, nothing that can be done. Like, that's just, you got to give it time to heal. Because it's like a little bone, right? It's just like a little side hand bone thing. He's tough. Let's just, Jose Ramirez, tough. Like, that's, you can say many things about him. That might be at the top of it.
If there was toughness on Baseball Savant, he would be in the 100th percentile.
Yeah, no doubt. And he would be up there for quirkiness and power speed combo, in my opinion.
And swagger.
And swagger, that's for sure. Let's take our break here and come back and then talk about where he stands historically. We don't get to keep a lot of great players in Cleveland. Let's be honest about that. We have seen, in my lifetime, most of them have gone. So let's get into seeing where Jose could stand with what we decide 6 more years left on this deal. So we're going to take our next break, come back and talk about the historical numbers. Also talk about, what might make you feel good or nervous about a player entering their 30s on today's Locked On Guardians. And we are back. So should we start with some of the historical spots, or do you want to talk about some of the age-related comps?
Let's start with historical, and then you go take us back to where he stacks up with history, and then I'll take us to how we might see him hold up over the life of the contract.
Sounds good. So he is currently 9th all-time in WAR. This is Baseball Reference's WAR. I'm using Baseball Reference because they have a better historical tool base. I don't necessarily love their WAR data collection method as much of others, so I'm just going to put that out there as well. But he is 2.9 behind Larry Doby. He should get there this year. He has been good for about 3 to 4 most years. If he can get 5.7 this year and get up to a 46, he'll pass Joe Sewell as well to be right behind Tomey and Lofton. Offensive WAR, he is also 9th, 1.3 behind Lofton, so he's getting close there. Just in terms of defensive WAR, he's in the 20s. It's not always as interesting, but on-base percentage is one of those that can change, as a guy plays longer into their career. He's surprisingly 50th in on-base percentage all time. Now, I think some of that might just be, he had a really bad sophomore slump. So that affects some of that stuff. So let's go back into just games played. How about 22nd all time? He's got Bill Wamsgam. Can't say his name. Ahead of him, then Bobby Avila, then Andre Thornton, who you talked about. If he played 150 games this year, he would jump up to, that'd be 287. He would pass Kenny Lofton, and he'd be right behind Carlos Santana, his former teammate, in that spot. Hits, always a good one to talk about. He passed Jason Kipnis. That was the last player he passed. He's at 1,155 hits. Next up, Brooke Jacoby. I said Brooke. I know I had a habit of saying Brooks, and I blame that on a childhood of saying Brooks. See, his lowest hit season. Let's give him 150. If he gets 150 hits this year, that would get him up to what, 1305? 1305 would move him into 13th all time, passing Julio Franco, Carlos Santana, Michael Brantley, Larry Doby. Put him right behind Jim Thome on the all-time list. Let's see, home runs. He's 10th. 10th all-time on that list already. And if he were to hit 30, he's got a 192. He's tied with Al Rosen right now. 30 would give him 222, and that would put him 5th all-time. He'd be 4 behind Earl Averill, and he would pass Carlos Santana, Hal Trotsky, Larry Doby, Andre Thornton, and Travis Hafner on that listing. Runs batted in, I don't do. Base on balls, he's had his fair share of walks. He's 20th. He is not ranked in strikeouts because of the hitter he is. Stolen bases, he's 7th. Wow. Between Harry Bay and Elmer Flick. Let's see.
Who's the leader there? Is that Kenny Lofton? Is he the leader?
I believe that's Kenny Lofton. Yeah, it's Lofton dominates. He's got 452. Number 2 is Omar Vizquel at 279. So let's see. He stole 20 bases this year. If he does another 20, this is updated. So if he steals 20 this year, he'll still be 7th. He's got to get up to 270. He needs to steal 34 bases to move into 6th. And then after that, it goes Flick, Ray Chapman, Nap Lajoie, Terry Turner, Omar Vizquel, Kenny Lofton. So it's a hard list where he is to move up in that one. I was going to see if there's, I think if you just want to do total bases, he's 16th on that list, right behind Travis Hafner. And he's got a chance to, let's see, a typical Jose Ramirez total base season is about 300. So if he gets another 300 total bases next year, that would move him into 2nd all time. That can't be. Oh no, I'm looking at the wrong number. That explains that. It's like, wait a second, how is he jumping that much? Total bases, he is 14th. He passed Manny Ramirez. Another 300 this year would move him up to 9th all time, passing Carlos Santana, Kenny Lofton, Larry Doby, Omar Vizquel, and Charlie Jamison. Like I said, I'm not going to do runs batted in, but yeah, basically from what you're hearing is if he's not in the top 10 already, he is just outside and will move in at the end of this year. And I mean, he's the greatest third baseman in Guardians history. Like I did my all-time team 2 years ago during the COVID season, and we talked about, like, in terms of WAR, they've had a lot of good players at third base, like Terry Turner and Bill Bradley. I was trying to remember if I should go back and fix it before I get yelled at because I said his name wrong. Because it's not, Ken Keltner was another one, but where is he? How I said it, Trotsky.
Trotsky.
Trotsky. Is it pronounced Trotsky? I feel like I got yelled at for using the pronunciation like the Russian dictator last time.
I think I've heard it Hal Trotsky before, yeah.
Okay. So I was just trying to avoid it, but maybe I'm right. But yeah, no, basically, like I said, they've had some good third basemen. He's the greatest, and he's got a chance to be, a Mount Rushmore player for this franchise with the way he's going. Offensively, it's, your cream of the crop in this Cleveland organization when you're looking at leaderboards. It's Nap Lajoie, it's Tris Speaker, it's Lou Boudreau, it's Earl Averill, it's Jim Thome, and then it's Kenny Lofton. It's like those 6 are kind of the big players in most categories. If we just want to do WAR, it's Lajoie, Speaker, Boudreau, Averill, Lofton, Thome. So yeah, he's got to get up into that grouping, and in terms of WAR to get there, he needs like 12 more WAR, which he should be able to get over the life of his contract.
You would think so. I mean, an average season WAR wise for Jose at this point is 5.7. Obviously things are going to be interesting as he ages. Could go between, I don't know, I think 4. Like he's got a couple. This is by Baseball Reference WAR, just because when you're talking about like Hall of Fame and like you said, statistical data, they have a better database for it, so we use that in this term. But he's mostly been between 6 and 7 the last couple of years, outside of obviously the COVID year, and then 2019 where he had that second half or that first half slump before he got it together. But if you imagine he's going to be like a 5-6 win player for the next 3 seasons, that's 15 more wins above replacement in theory for Baseball Reference. I mean, like I said, his average is 5.5, is 5.7. That takes him to 15 right there, and honestly, that might get him close to Hall of Fame level because Baseball Reference also has a good database for this as well. So the average career WAR on Baseball Reference for a third baseman is 68.4. He is at 40.3. So if you add 15 to that, he is at 55. We just said maybe he averages 5 wins a year for the next 3 years. That's 15, right? And there's a chance he could be better than that. That's just what he's averaged in his career. Let's say he has a couple 6-win seasons, and that's 18. I know he's got to get 28. That's a long way to go. 28. I think if he gets into the 60s, I think he's got a case. He's already close on his 7-year peak, which is 37.5. The 7-year peak average for a Hall of Fame third baseman right now is 43. So he's close. He's close. He's already surpassed WAR 162 for Jaws, which is 5.7. And this is all looking at Jaws, by the way, which I believe is Jay Jaffe's. Yeah. So that's Jay Jaffe's work.
Correct. I was nodding my head for the audio listeners.
Yeah, and Jaws is the average third baseman in Jaws is 55.7, and he's at 38.9. So I mean, we're talking we have 6 more years of Jose Ramirez on this contract. If he averages 4 wins over those 6 years, that's 24 wins above replacement. And that's probably baking in some regression, right?
I know there are people losing their minds because we've gone full stat nerd, but the thing with Jose is you have to go full stat nerd. This isn't a case where we can sit back and talk about his big game performances, because unfortunately it's there haven't been as many opportunities for him, and he hasn't had that big kind of market to show. And it's not to say he was bad in the postseason. I'm not saying that at all, but this isn't I go back to thinking about something like Jack Morris, where that was always the defensive line. Derek Jeter. It's he doesn't have that, so you have to lean into the numbers, and the numbers support him. I think the biggest problem for him statistically with those numbers is he at age 23 essentially is when he became the full-time player, and he had kind of the ups and downs before. And it's just how much do you think he can stay at that level is my question to you.
Right. Yeah. No, like I said, I mean, I think so far, like I said, his average wins above replacement for Baseball Reference so far has been 5.7. Like I said, if he averages 4 wins a year over the life of the contract from here on out, I mean, he was 6 this year. I think if you bake in some regression, maybe he gets another 7-win year, I think there's no doubt he would have had a 7-win season in 2020. What is that? I don't know what that extrapolated is. 2.5 over 58 games. I mean, that's
so it's a third. So 2.5 would be 7.5.
So that's another 7-win season. If that thumb is healthy this year, I think we can say he's definitely going to at least accumulate another win.
Yeah.
A 7.5 win season. So I think if a healthy Jose Ramirez, that's going to be the question, is health over the next 6 years of that contract. But I think it's fair to say, even with some regression and age-based regression, averaging 4 wins a year over the last 6 years of that deal, when you balance the term of it, I think is everything's with health. I think there's a chance. And the other reason you have to use these numbers too is because Jose Ramirez is not going to hit 500 home runs in his career. Like I know for hitters, one of those things is like 500 homers or hit 300 or 3,000 hits. Jose is not going to reach 3,000 hits. He's at 1,155. He's not going to get to 3,000 probably. At 192 home runs, he's not going to get to 500. To be honest, I don't think it's going to happen. And batting average is probably, I don't know how much we'll consider that. Let's see. Jose's got 6 years left in his deal. We're talking like 15 years from now, for his Hall of Fame candidacy. So who knows what batting average will look like by then? But I think if he gets like 300 homers and 300 steals over his career, there are guys with much worse numbers in the Hall of Fame. And third base is a pretty low bar to clear because there's not a lot of third basemen in the Hall of Fame. So,
and then the other thing is people are always, it's like he's what, a three-time Silver Slugger, 4-time All-Star. It's like
he won a Gold Glove.
Has he? I don't think he's won a Gold Glove.
No, he has not.
Yeah, so he's got that. It's like I finished second in the MVP in the plague year, 2 third-place finishes. Like we've seen more value of late be placed on like top 5 finishes instead of winning overall. But hopefully, that was one of the most asinine statements. And it's not a swear word when you say it that way. I heard against Jim Thome was like lack of all-star games. It's like,
oh yeah,
give me a break. Like, it's for Ramirez, the whole body of work should be like he's a complete player, and there's going to be statistical data to back that up. Listen, we think he's a Hall of Fame level player, but what do they have in system?
Yeah, that's a good thing they signed him to that extension, right? Because we'd be looking at Nolan Jones at third base. That was up for debate for a while.
I thought Gabby might go there just due to arm.
Yeah, you could put Arias at third base. There's no doubt he can handle it. That was the big reason why Nolan Jones played third base all of 2021. I remember myself included saying, why isn't Jones playing more outfield? Why isn't he playing first base? And it was because they had to keep him at third because they just didn't know what was going to happen with Jose Ramirez. So Nolan Jones could have been the future third baseman. The rest of the system is pretty light, so it's a good thing they did what they did with him, and he was willing to take an undermarket deal to stay. The best prospect for me in the system at third base is Gabby Rodriguez at this point, if you don't want to include Arias. You brought up before we started recording that Gabby Rodriguez had one of the highest signing bonus?
Highest signing bonus for any bat. It kind of depends, like, to get into the weeds a little, it's like if you look at some of the pitchers, like Danny Baez, I think those technically count. So those are higher, but he is the 2.1 million was the highest bonus they have ever given to a hitter in the international market.
So 2018 for him was the year he was signed, and he had not performed well in any of his seasons to date until 2022 as a 20-year-old in high A with a 112 WRC plus and pretty solid strikeout rate. Walk rate was good. Showed some power. Great glove at third base. I was super impressed with his glove at third base and his arm. So I really think he rebuilt a lot of his value. I know there were some questions in 2021 about his conditioning. I think after the COVID year, he came back and there was some worry about the shape he might have been in. And he just had a very poor year in low A at age 19, which, you're coming off the COVID year. You're 19 years old. This is your first full season, first taste of full season ball. A lot could happen. So it was fair to give him a mulligan for 2021. And he showed why in 2022. He's a very solid player. The concern now is the shoulder. He had shoulder surgery this offseason, and it sounds like it's up in the air whether or not he'll start the season on time. He may not. So
he's a Rule 5 eligible player. If a team really likes him, sometimes those injuries make it easier to cash. It'd still be weird. Let's be honest. It would be. I
think the odds are pretty minimal there.
But I would say the odds are very minimal of Noel as well. So, I know some people want to count Noel at third base. I got to say, John Kenzie Noel can't play third base. I watched him at Lake County last year. He struggled at third base. I think there's a reason they moved him to the outfield. Obviously the Jose Ramirez contract, but he was playing third base in Lake County, when in the regular season after that contract was signed. So John Kenzie Noel was not, that experiment was not good. He has the arm, no doubt, but the
the hands and the range at third base. Just the reactions just weren't good. Outfield went much better for him. So I would say third base is not in John Kent Newell's future. Other than those two guys at third base,
if you look at the prospects on the fringe at Fangraphs when they did their midseason, they mentioned Diane Frias, who I know it wasn't great in A-ball, but man, he tore up the complex league a year ago.
I like him a little bit. He can play some defense. He's got an interesting approach at the plate. Probably maybe a late bloomer a little bit. Yeah, that's really about it. I mean, David Fry can play third base. I have heard reports that his defense at third base is actually pretty decent for a guy who is a utility player and a corner utility player at that. So, it's you and I have both talked about how we want David Fry in the 40-man roster.
Yeah.
Just for the versatility alone and how that can stretch your roster a little bit further. But yeah, I think Gabby Rodriguez, and after that, it's Diane Frias after that, and David Fry is mixed in there somewhere. That's it.
And that's really it. I don't know if any of those players, we talk about are top 30 prospects too. Like, in fairness, too.
It's a good system, so.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. That's the caveat. Like, it's a fantastic system. In the depth,
move any of the shortstops at third base. I mean, we talked about you can move Arias to third base. Jose Tena can handle third. I think Milan Tolentino can handle third. I think H.O. Martinez can probably handle third. Rocchio could. Yeah, Valdez. Any of those guys defensively, anyway. None of them have a bat for third base, but yeah.
Well, we went long, but hey, we had history and defense, and we have history in terms of the player we talked about. So, it seemed like a perfect day to go a little long. I think it's a perfect time to wrap it up here. Thank you for listening. Again, hey, rate and review. That really helps the show grow. They say all reviews are good reviews. So go have your worst or your best at it on iTunes. And then, subscribe on YouTube. Please, please, please. That last 179 would be huge. If I'm just putting cards on the table, when you hit to 1K, we actually benefit from it. Right now, we get nothing from YouTube. At all until it gets to 1K. Outside of fantastic conversations and interactions with everyone out there. But if you're enjoying that, it's the simple thing to go subscribe. So I just beg of that again and end the show the way we always do. Go Guardians, go.